All right, in this explainer, we're going to unlock one of the most important tenses in the entire English language, the present simple. Seriously, getting this right is a total game changer, and by the end of this, you're going to be using it with complete confidence.
So let's just dive right in. I bet you've seen this before, right? She liked coffee versus she likes coffee. That tiny little S at the end makes all the difference in the world, and we are about to figure out exactly why it's there and when you have to use it.
Okay, first things first. Before we jump into all the rules, let's get a handle on what the present simple is actually for. What's its job?
And here's the crucial thing to remember. We're not using this to talk about what's happening right this second. Nope. This is all about things that are permanent, things that happen over and over again, or just simple, unchanging facts about the world.
And these examples show it perfectly. The sun rises in the east. That's a universal fact, right? I drink coffee every morning. That's a personal habit, a routine. And she works in a bank. Well, that describes her ongoing situation. It's generally true.
So we know why we use it. Now let's look at how to actually build it. This is our starting point for putting sentences together.
And the good news is, for most subjects, the formula is beautifully simple. You just take your subject, the person or thing doing the action, and you add the basic verb. That's it. No changes, no weird endings.
See how easy that is? When your subject is I, you, we, or they, the verb just stays in its original, plain old base form. I play, you like, they live. It really is that simple.
But now, here it is, the special rule. This is the one that causes all the confusion and leads us right back to that mistake we saw in the very first slide. This is the absolute key to mastering the present simple. The rule itself sounds easy enough, right? Just add an S or an ES to the end of the verb. But the million-dollar question is, when? When do you actually do it? Well, here's the fantastic news. You only have to worry about this rule for 3 little words: he, she, and it. That's it. So if your subject is John, or my sister, or the cat, you can just think, aha, that's a he, she, or it, and you know it's time to add that S. And of course, English, it's got to have a couple of spelling quirks. So if a verb ends in one of those hissing sounds like ch or sh, we add es just to make it easier to say. Think watches or misses. And for verbs like study, we switch that y to an I before we add the es. Okay, so we've totally got the positive sentences down, but what if we want to say no or ask a question? For that, we need to bring in a couple of little helper words. And this table lays it all out nice and clear. For I, you, we, and they, our helper word is don't. But for our special group, he, she, and it, we bring in the helper word doesn't. All right, stop and really look at this one. This is, without a doubt, the most common mistake people make when they're forming a negative sentence. And here's why it's wrong. See the difference? Once you use doesn't, the S on the main verb just disappears. Think of it this way. The helper word does is already carrying that special S for you, so the main verb can relax and go back to its original base form. She doesn't play. And guess what? Asking a question follows the same kind of logic. We use those exact same helper words, do and does, but this time we just move them to the front of a line. And you can see exactly how it works here. Now notice again, after do or does, the main verb is always in its simple base form. It's does he work, never does he works. And look at those short answers. They just repeat the helper word you started with. Okay, let's put the finishing touches on this. We'll look at some keywords that are major clues for the present simple, and then circle back to one more big mistake to avoid. Think of these words as your best friends for this tense. Whenever you see words that talk about how often something happens, like always or every day or sometimes, it is a huge signal that you should probably be using the present simple. And here's that other really common trip-up, where the helper words get mixed up. We see the subject is he, so we know right away that something's not quite right with don't. And there's the fix. This is just a rule you have to lock into your brain. He, she, and it will always use doesn't for negatives and does for questions. There are no exceptions. Okay, we've done a lot of talking, but talk is cheap, right? Let's put your new skills to the test right now with a few quick challenges. You ready? All right, look at this subject.
It's she. Is that one of our special third-person subjects? So what happens to that verb, go?
Now for a negative sentence. The subject is they. So, to make it negative, which helper word do you need to use? Don't or doesn't?
And last one, a question. Which helper word do you need to start a question when the subject is you? And then, what happens to the main verb, like? Does it change?
And that's really it. That's the whole secret. It all comes down to remembering that special S rule for he, she, and it, and then using the right helper words, do and does, for your negatives and questions. You've totally got this.
So, now that you've got a solid handle on the present simple, what's next? What's the other English tense that just drives you crazy? Let us know.